This idea was the dungeon builder idea, where basically going off the theme of we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. That was it, wasn't it? Yeah. So basically the idea of perception, and the idea that sprung to mind was one player building a dungeon or building an arena or any sort of play space, and then having a second player come in. The first one builds the play space based on vague tokens, which they know will be a particular item, but they don't know which. So it could be health, it could be an enemy, it could be something else. So basically what it does is that provides the dungeon builder with a motivation to sort of evenly spread things out through the arena, so to speak, and not just sort of spam everything in one corner, because like you might end up having an enemy there, but it might have a ton of health around it, or vice versa. So, and then so the second player comes in and designates what, without seeing what the builder does, designates what each item is going to be. So everything ends up being what the player sees it as opposed to what the builder builds it as. That was the idea. Kind of works. Wish could have done a bit more with it, but you know, time. Do you have anything? Hey, we'll just give it a run. We apologise we didn't get any sound in, but we'll sort of do our best to explain it as we go. Do you want me to build this time?
You build this time because I built the last time.
Alright, don't watch the sound. Okay, so, and the other sort of like we ended up going with sort of a futuristic theme, but based on Grecian mythology. So it was like the whole idea of this like television / sports show that would do these events, but then base the events on history. So that's why it's called Olympiatica. Sorry? Oh, thanks. So, you missed that one.
I'm not watching.
So basically, this here is like the play space, so I can create walls, essentially creating rooms. Actually, what I might do is I'll heat them out. So, I'll make little rooms and corridors. And then what I end up doing is also deciding what the actual overall goal is. So whether or not Nick will have to kill kill the boss or find the exit. So what I'm doing here is placing these, depending on what Nick chooses, will either end up being an enemy or health. So I'm gonna go. Nice. You only have to place one of everything, but you have a maximum of particular ones. So I don't necessarily have to put all of these down. These three will be the spawn area, the exit, and the boss. So the spawn area, the exit, and the boss. So, yeah. These two will either become a power up or a debuff. So I'll put in these away. It depends. It depends what he ends up picking them to be. So. These will either end up being helpful NPCs or traps. It is a little bit, yeah. It wasn't until afterwards I was thinking that. I was just like, wait. I guess that'll do. I'll throw a few more of these in. So now, I'll let Nick explain this.
So yeah, so now I then have to decide what I think Ben has assigned these as. Each one has 2 slots that it could potentially go in. So I'm going to go with the robotic element the snakes are going to kill. And as usual, blue is never good. So I'll just boost and a debuff. I'll go for white as a boost. And as I said, blue was never good. I'll start at blue just in case. Look for red. Yellow is the boss. Alright. Where am I? I'm up the top. Ow! Ah! Help. I'm the little red guy here, and I have a boss chasing me already.
Nice for you.
But because I'm in. Hey, help.
Oh, come on! Alright, so yeah, because I put the boss too close to the spawn thing, he turned the, because of the way he selected it, it puts the boss really close to the, his spawn, and the boss aggroed on him, and yeah, that's sort of how it ended up playing out. So then the whole idea is that you sort of just go back and forth and just be like, you know, best out of 3 or whatever, I guess. But yeah, that was it. Like it could do it a lot more polished and a lot more balanced. Like I think we literally got it working at about 4 p.m. today. So like we didn't even have time to balance like the damage and health and everything, the enemies and the player. But yeah, that's the idea. And do you guys have anything you want to say? The other team members?
I really like the ambiguity of the images that make all the game work. I think in possible in future iterations it could be even more ambiguous, like an abstract thing, because
Sorry, what?
the power and personally the one with the snakes immediately associated with that with elf.
Yeah.
So even I think you could go further on the ambiguity of the images and the tokens.
That's cool.
That concept is really nice.
It's just. We did a little bit of. Do you want to explain this? Because you're the one that did the research.
At the last time we were the 2 snakes. The one with the wings and the staff is the incorrect one. It's meant to be Hades' staff, not Hades' rings. And we sort of developed wires and gamblers. The correct one is just 1 snake around the rock. So we kind of used that, I guess, in a sense.
But yeah, like. That was something we sort of thought about while we were doing it. You'll notice that there was the 2 ones where they select either the helpful NPC or the that's the one I'm actually the most proud of is the NPC and the trap, because one of them looks like a character that's actually got cuts and stuff through it, but it's actually bandages. So it depends on how the person that looks at it interprets it. Like, is it someone that's been bandaged up, or is it someone that's been cut off? But
it's funny how you put up the interface, and then immediately people start thinking, oh, what is that? But yeah, I guess if you did a research, you have a lot of different opinions on what they interpreted in the first place.
That was the whole idea. So. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and thanks for the feedback. Does anyone have anything else? I don't want to keep everything. Thanks, man.
When you have a character that can change its own shape, so we have 2 shapes, a human and a sphere. But when you change your shape, you change your entire vision of the world, so everything that was cubic when you were a cube will become spherical, and when you are a sphere. But when you change this shape, it doesn't change the nature of what the other objects are in the world itself. So we try to build a puzzle game around it. It's more a platform game now than a puzzle game. So yeah, let's play and we'll see how it looks. So we play this cube, and the entire world is cubic here. You can move your cube, and you are a cube. And at any time you can shape shift to a sphere, and the entire world change to spherical visually. But it doesn't mean that object that you see here is a sphere. It is what it is. It's actually a cube, a real cube, but it looks like a sphere when it changes to a sphere. So you have to interact with it. So here we have a little wireframe for the first cubes, but later we move it. So you have to interact with the objects to understand what they are and understand what the person is doing.
Part of the puzzle here is that you need to change forms and parts yourself.
So this object is a sphere, so if you just change to a cube, this object will move as a sphere, even if it's a cube. It looks like. So you change your perception of the world, objects keep their nature, original as a joint.
Push a little bit
So,
closer.
the ball is heavy and slow, but helps you to push stuff a little easier than the cube. And the cube allows you to, for example, move a little faster. You have a little bit over. And at the same time, also helps you to move when you have, for example, a hole, because the cube can move, and go easier.
I really like the texture of the game as well. You move cubing and how we kind of jump the shot.
Can you get out?
No. That's not no.
So it's all based also on try and restart and down. Yeah. So you have to be quick on this spot, because you don't have a wall to stop you. So it's die and restart and try to understand how to go to the end. Sorry?
You want to do it faster?
Of course, you'll be able to play the game and travel.
No.
So you'll be able by yourself to see the end of the world.
Yeah. Like a tiny piece like this.
That's it.
Thank you.
What we wanted to do with the game, it's this little guy trying to find who he is, who himself is. So the idea was this room, the original idea for this room to be where at the end you would find yourself. So this is just the beginning of your adventure. The main concept is you become part of the people you meet. It's more of a story-driven game. I want to in a few gameplay. So you find yourself in a cave. It was actually by random that we chose a cave, but now I think it's a good analogy to Platus cave. Like you just know what you see. If you don't see anything else, you don't know. So search for yourself, and you find some little guy here. It's awesome. Hello, my name is Beat. So this guy represents the beat of weakness. So he thinks that the boulders are blocking, so he doesn't even try. So if you really try to move the boulders, he won't do it because he thinks he's weak. His perspective is on weakness. But if you find a little better, you'll find here a tough guy. And if we talk to him, he passes you an image of strength. So yeah, if you try, you probably can move. They aren't that heavy. Okay. If you say so, now I can move the boulders. So we can move the boulders. That's all. Of course, now he finds the world is much bigger than he thought. So he thinks that he might have something else. So he becomes more things. Of course, we made a very short cave, but well, that's the idea. We try to pass that kind of concept that when you meet new people and new environments, you become something else and see the world in a different perspective. So, any comments or suggestions? Everything?
No, it's, I don't. We also tried to learn more different perspectives. So it's beautiful. So we were going to go to illustrate
The base concept.
It's a very nice concept.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see how it would end up, like what's up there.
Sorry?
I'd really like to see how it goes from the.
What kind of
conceptions you thought about?
Well, we thought about, for example, imagine if we had a dark corridor and your character wouldn't want to pass through it because it was with fear. It was fear of the unknown. But if you talk to someone who is courageous, maybe, yeah, it's not that bad. And the corridor would look brighter and you'd be able to pass. The same thing we initially thought about. You see the world very dark and black and white, but someone shows you color in the world, and then you see color. Those were some of the ideas. We chose the simplest one because, as you know, no time.
You could go anywhere with that, man. Like, there's so many cool things you could do.
Yeah.
Like, just thinking if you were saying, having the wood thing be black and white, and then have like one person that can see color.
And we also thought of something a little more bold. It would be harder to implement. But imagine you need to interact with some character in order to progress. We thought you could speak to someone whose perspective was prejudice, and then suddenly all the characters, instead of all the same, you start to see them white, black, yellow, and then you'll be intimidated for the people that are different from you, and you would be able to practice the negative perspective.
But yeah, I don't know if it was in your intention, but you could sort of turn this into a really cool puzzle game, like having it.
That was our
intention.
Yeah, that was our intention from the beginning. We really know there's a lot of things that could work out.
Yeah, I think the game could also benefit from
more professional approach.
Professional art.
Artwork, of course, yeah.
We also thought about the affinity mechanic that you could the more you, because you could talk to a stronger person and then you will be able to be stronger. But it was only to pass that puzzle in specific. So you could keep talking to that person and you yourself would become stronger. Implement some sort of affinity mechanic where you can gain more the perspective of the other people.
Yeah. And probably not so black and white. Like here I talk to strong people and become strong. Probably that's not so direct, but that kind of affinity that we're stronger and stronger.
It might be good. It would be cool if you could, like, if you talk to strong people, you become like less like weak people, and then if there was a puzzle that required you to be weak, you would have
Exactly.
to go and find
weak
people
people
and
to get
in touch with them into yourself,
yeah.
to sort of skew your perspective into that environment.
Yeah, you pretty much said what I wanted to say, but have you ever thought of maybe the character that you play reflects his traits towards other NPCs?
That is a good twist on the game. Yeah. We haven't thought about it, but that's very cool.
That will generate something.
Generates, yeah.
And you can play with all that motion screen.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
So, yeah. So the name of the game is basically Conscience. It's about this guy who was on the main menu. He's basically been in this mental hospital for so long that he has forgotten his own identity. And he doesn't know who he is anymore. There's just this tiny bit of conscience left in him that defines what he is. So this is basically, you're basically him in his head. And he's basically trying to escape the mental hospital. So where he started was his room. You're basically trying to get out of the hospital. So you're finding your way out, and as you go out, you have basically, this is actually your conscience meter, and then you have 3 feelings that you collect along the way. But like everything that comes towards you, every player every other entity that comes towards you looks exactly like you. So you don't know what feeling they are, or if they are actually, the one over there is like actually a joker, so it's like an insane kind of mad thing. So you basically use your flashlight to reveal what they really are. And then you have to collect the feelings that you need. So you're basically supposed to balance out these 3 meters. Like you're supposed to be 50% happy, 50% sad, and 50% angry. And that will basically keep you sane. So, some feelings you have to avoid if you have too much of them, because if you have too much of a feeling, it affects your gameplay, the way your player reacts. So if you're too angry or too happy at a certain point, it will actually affect certain things about you, either your speed or the way the flashlight works or the way you see other entities. If you're excessively happy, now it's sort of still about there in balance, but for example, if your sad was like all the way down and if you're angry, like try to get one of the feelings to go very high. See, now you're like too happy, so like everyone looks happy. So now you see everyone is happy, you don't know what their real feeling is. And so that kind of stays for some time until your happy thing comes back down or balance with the other. And then you also, your torchlight has a battery thing. So every insanity guy you kill, the jokers, it basically, you actually absorb them into your torchlight, and that actually gives you more battery power. And then you have to reuse that again to rediscover what the other things are. And along the way there are 3 keys that are hidden all over the level. And just before you exit the hospital, there are 3 rooms that you have to pass through. You have to at least pass through one of them to actually be able to exit the hospital. So if you collect all the 3 keys, each room is basically one feeling. So if you collect all 3 keys, they give you a choice to be able to, like, when you reach towards the end of the level, if you realize you don't have enough of anger but the other 2 feelings are sort of imbalanced, you can go into the anger room, collect a little more anger, and then exit the hospital. So, but if you only have, you need at least minimum 1 key to be able to exit the level. But if you have all 3, then it gives you an advantage to be able to balance out that you actually finish the game. And yeah, even the torchlight actually has 2 modes. One is just to reveal, that's the white light. And then to actually kill, it's basically red. So it basically behaves differently. So there's a mouse click. And when you finish the game, that's the end. That was the idea.
We didn't show how you get, when you get too angry, you will, the control will be much faster. And when you get too sad, the battery will be drained much faster.
If you have out of battery,
Yeah, you cannot use the battery anymore. You just bubble into them and you get lucky.
See what happens.
I really like the fact that if you get too happy, you don't perceive the true self of the other.
It means you are too high to know.
Yeah, that could be a good metaphor to if you are too ingrained in your own perspective, you start to let the others and don't see the perspective or get a part of it. So I think that's a thing that could be I really like that part. And also about the specifically about the UI. If you wanted to give the impression that you have to go at like 50% of that project, feeling, I think maybe you can improve the UI. Having that yeah, because on the first time if I really do it, I could perceive it could be 50%. Because we need to have a bar with something on the label so that you can
Maybe halfway more.
Sort of towards the towards 0 and 100, so you sort of know you want to keep it within that field.
Exactly.
I really like the happy part too. You see everything else. That's very
Happiness is contagious.
at least in your own eyes. Everyone's happy.
I don't think people like it one worship. Definitely.
Thank you.